Now you may or may not be aware that we as human beings have the capacity to move along 3 different planes of direction. The most obvious one is the forward and backward plane known as the sagittal plane, which we just walk to work on a daily basis. However, many people cannot actually walk backwards while facing forwards. Now you might wonder why you would need to do that, but if you were playing sports where you need to keep your eye on the opponent or a ball, and you do have to look up to your shoulder, otherwise you'll fall over, then that becomes a bit of a problem. So we need to really work on our movement literacy to look forward and walk backwards in a nice straight line. Also can be said for the side to side plane, which is known as the frontal plane, where we need to shuffle from side to side. Again, usually when I do an assessment with somebody, they would turn around in this direction and they're actually going in the sagittal plane, but they think they're actually going side to side. And if I'm working with children to do something like being a goalkeeper in soccer, and again with tennis, if they have to turn around every single time, then they can't move quick enough to dive in time. And then we've got the final one, which is the transverse plane. We've got our transverse abdominis, which is a part of the abs which allows us to turn and to twist. Again, you would use that to strike something, you use it to throw something, and for everyday life where you're doing cleaning or picking up something and moving it. So those 3 planes are very important for us on a day-to-day basis. But how often do we actually practice them? Now, if we don't practice them and develop the muscles throughout the whole range of movement, and of course we are limited in our mobility, but also we're limited in our freedom to be able to do a lot of things. Then there's the next level when you want to work on complexity. And if you want to work on complexity, you just want to combine the movements together. I know I'm referring a lot to sports, but you can think about someone who's a javelin thrower, for instance, who has to run along the sagittal plane first to create momentum and power behind the movement, then turn side on, and then throw, which is that transverse movement. And again, I work a lot with children who think that everything's going along that plane when they're kicking the ball, and they'll run up to the ball almost like a sprinter, but not realize that they need to actually turn to create that torque to actually strike the ball. Now, why am I telling you all this? Because when you are working out in the gym, you do want to make sure that you actually do something that translates to real life. And just pushing a weight along one plane of direction is not really going to translate into real life. And that's why a lot of people who do work out find that they can't actually do normal housework. They're always exhausted or they are very restricted in their movement. So what kind of implementation could you use in the gym that will help you do all those things? Now, I've already mentioned kettlebells. They're very great for that. But for actually really improving your strength, I would say there's nothing better in the gym than an implement that you see laying in the corner in every gym nowadays, but no one tends to use, and that is the landmine. In your gym, you will see the landmine as a barbell like this, maybe anchored on the end of it, which allows it to be able to move around on like a global axis. However, if you haven't got one in your gym, you can make your own by simply putting a tennis ball or a rubber ball on the end of it. You will need to cut it open. Just use a knife, cut it like a scapula, and then just put it down the end there, and you then put it in the corner of a room, and you're pretty much good to go with it. And you put a few weights on the end of it depending on what you feel is more suitable for you. Again, you're not going to put the same kind of weight as you would do if you are bench pressing. You're going to look for something that you can use so that you can move throughout the whole range and control it. And unlike you would do if you were doing a deadlift or a bench press, you don't want to do your 1 rep max 60% to find out what you can do. Start light. Start as light as you can and see if you're losing control of the movement. If you have to speed up your movement when you're turning and moving, then you are going a little too heavy. However, if it's just too much control, not being challenged on teetering on the edge of your balance, then it's too light.